I was in the Navy. I joined the Naval Reserve in 1960, the same year I graduated high school. 1961, I went to Great Lakes to basic training, and it's cold north of Chicago in the wintertime, especially when the wind comes off that frozen lake. We wore only dress uniforms, and I know some mornings it was below zero when we marched to the chow hall. So that was, you didn't, if you were sleepy, it woke you up real fast. Getting up early, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and eating breakfast by 5 and going to class and going to all sorts of exercises. Oh, we had to jump off of a high board into a swimming pool, and I thought that was fun because I was a pretty good swimmer, but it was surprising how many of them they had to push off. Training to use a gas mask, and they made you take it off in this smoke-filled room, and then you were supposed to be able to put it back on properly, and everybody got a taste or a dose of some of the gases, or supposedly gases, or whatever. It was pretty uncomfortable, I know that. But a few people vomited. After boot camp, I was assigned to a tank landing ship in Yokosuka, Japan. We would move troops supposed to be picked up. We'd move them to a different location. Oftentimes we picked up troops in Japan and would take them to Okinawa. We were discouraged from talking about where we were at the time, I know that. I don't think any of our mail was censored, but we weren't supposed to talk about where we had been and what we were doing there. And so I was transferred to the USS Westchester County, which is the county where New York City is. Visited ports of in Korea, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Okinawa. And our home port was Yokosuka, Japan, which is just about, I don't know, 40 or 50 miles south of Tokyo. I got very sick, and I guess it was a good thing because I didn't get sick after that. We would tie down the vehicles that we had loaded up, mostly trucks, and it was kind of a dirty job. I took a correspondence course for navigation, and I ended up being an assistant to the navigator. I was at a nice warm place to sleep, and I knew somebody was going to cook me a meal, and yeah. Sometimes it's kind of rough riding. Sometimes we used to strap ourselves into the bunk because sometimes it would throw you out. So wow. Yeah, you could sleep and hold on at the same time. I had never seen any combat. We were never in any situation where we'd gotten shot at. But the first trip that my ship made after I was put ashore when my time was up, they went to Vietnam and they got shot at with small arms fire. And then in 1967, they were blown up pretty severely. They had underwater swimmers that planted mines on the bottom of the ship when it was anchored in the mouth of the river there. Fortunately, only one of the mines had gone off, but it was underneath the compartment where I slept, and everybody that was asleep in that compartment was killed. I got to know the Japanese people quite well. And I grew up in my parents had gone through Pearl Harbor and so forth, and growing up I heard some pretty nasty things about Japanese, and when they said I was going to be home ported in Japan, I thought that was kind of a bad place to have to be, and I found out the Japanese people were very warm and kind and very accommodating, and found out they were very much like Americans. When they first told me I was going to Japan, I about cried, and I thought that was going to be a terrible thing. And 2 or 2.5 years later, as I was on an airplane leaving Japan, I had a big lump in my throat. I had mixed feelings about going home. I got to liking it so much there. Yeah. I wrote letters. That was only, there was no internet or telephone or anything like that. And you couldn't get back. We couldn't get back to the States other than if there was a death in the family, they'd let you go home. Most of my shipmates complained about the food, and I'd never seen such a variety of food, you know, 2 or 3 kinds of meat and salads and vegetables, and it was almost like a banquet. And I thought, what are they complaining about? Hadn't there been a draft, I probably wouldn't have enlisted, but I think to me it would have been tragic. I would have missed out on 2 years of very exciting and interesting part of my life. Certainly a way to broaden your horizons, yeah. Literally and figuratively. I certainly wouldn't want to have to do it now, but I did stay in the Naval Reserve until 1982, so I ended up with about 22 and a half years in.